Hello, I think we're live. Hello, everyone. Give me a second to refresh my YouTube so I can catch up with chat. Hi, Jess. How are you today?
Hello, everybody. I am good. I'm good.
I am
My
very
voice
glad to
sounds
see
a
you.
little rough. I had like a weird migraine day yesterday, but we're
Oh,
good. We're
well,
good.
good. I'm glad you're here. Give me 1 second. My YouTube is not cooperating with me. There we go. Looks like it's working.
Mm.
All right, who we got in chat? Hello, Rosie and Tess, Mimi. Thank you guys for being here. All the great mods that we have. Oh, let me just scroll up and see. There's a lot. Chat is flying
My
this morning.
goodness, you guys.
Good
You might
morning,
want to
Miss
slow it
Sophia.
down.
And Kay is here. Good morning, Kay. Happy Mother's Day to you. This is a great Mother's Day
No
present.
kidding. Hello,
Woohoo!
Kay.
All
Yeah,
right.
good news all around.
All right. So we're yeah, my hair is up today in a ponytail. I normally do not do this. I'm very uncomfortable. I'm not feeling so good today. But we'll try to get through. If I get a little weirded out, I will put my picture up instead. So just know I'm trying to be here in public, but I don't like this. So Jess, we got some big news last night. Big news last
This
night.
has been like the week of, it's like the true crime pinata was busted this week. Everything just
Definitely.
kicked off. I mean, there is candy flying everywhere for everybody.
Yep.
It's a good Mother's Day weekend. It's a good one.
Definitely.
So many
Definitely.
good news about a lot of cases.
Yep. So the reason we're here today, last night we got news from Court TV, and I am going to put a caveat here. The only place that this information comes from is Court TV. We have been unable to confirm it independently of Court TV, so just keep that in the back of your mind. I don't think it's not true. I'm pretty sure Court TV would not run with something like this if it were not true. So there's that. But you remember that. Okay. But we got news from Court TV that a grand jury has been called for to hear evidence regarding J.J. Vallow, Tylee Ryan, and Tammy Daybell. That's
That is
big.
so
That
good.
is movement. Finally, we've got something really happening. But I also want to break down what a grand jury is, how it works, what the process is, and what this actually means, because it may sound a lot bigger and different than it really is. So we got to kind of, stay logical about this. But let's explain what a grand jury is. Now, a lot of states, when like let's talk about Chad Daybell. The charges that were filed against Chad, they were brought to a preliminary hearing. Remember, Jess, we watched that whole thing live together. The prosecutor can do that. They can bring charges and go before a court in a preliminary hearing to prove to the court that they have enough evidence to take this to trial. Okay. Or they can have it done through a grand jury process. Now, Rob Wood chose the preliminary hearing for Chad and Lori. Lori waived her prelim hearing, so we didn't see it, but Chad had one. But this grand jury is not being called by Rob Wood. Okay, so right there, this is being called by Lindsay Blake. She is the elected prosecutor for Fremont County. And we're going to talk about that later because that's an interesting little twist to this. But
Yeah, that's weird.
yes, it is a little strange. I'm a little concerned, but we'll get into that. But the grand jury, what is a grand jury? Okay, now we have a lot of viewers from overseas who have asked me, like on Twitter today, like, I don't know what a grand jury is. We don't have that here. So let's talk about the basics of a grand jury. There's two different types. When we say grand jury, don't mistake that with a trial jury. Right, those are
Right.
two totally different bodies. A grand jury is made up of average citizens, right, who will show up to court and serve on a grand jury. They can serve for up to like 6 months, right? They hear many cases. They don't just hear one.
Right.
So they kind of go in maybe once or twice a week or once a month or something, and they sit and they hear all the prosecutor's cases, and then they decide if there's charges that are going to be filed in those cases. So how does this work? All right, well, the grand jury has between 16 to like 23 people, right? And they meet in a room, and this is all private, okay? None of the grand jury proceedings are ever public. So we're not going to see it. We're not going to hear about it. We're not going to see transcripts, nothing. This is all private. And that's done very purposefully, right? And they do that so that the witnesses can speak freely. The jury gets to ask questions, which is really, you don't see that in a trial jury very often, where they can question the witnesses themselves. They can ask to see certain evidence, or they can even ask the prosecutor, well, don't you have any evidence that shows this, or that? Right? Even if it hasn't been presented, they can ask about it. So there's a reason. That's why it's secret, and it has to be to preserve the integrity of the process. Right? So they're going to get together, and they get together with a court reporter, and they get together with the prosecutor. There's no judge present during grand jury deliberations. All right. So the prosecutor will show up and say, here's all the evidence I have. I want to bring these charges against these people. And the grand jury will listen to all the evidence, and they get to decide if there's enough evidence to bring those charges or not. Right? There's two possible rulings that can come down from the jury. We get a no bill, which is no, they don't think there's any possibility of charges. So they say no. Or they get a true bill, which means, yeah, go ahead with your charges that you proposed. We agree with them. Other charges, whatever, they can have those discussions. So that's the gist of what a grand jury does. And there's a lot more detail I want to get into. But Jess, what do you think about the secrecy of a grand jury? To me, I think it's really, really important. But a lot of people get frustrated with that.
Now, I could be wrong, but the prosecutor still has the final say, the DA.
Yes,
correct?
Sort of.
Because just going by past cases like John Benet Ramsey, the grand jury wanted to indict her parents, and the DA refused to bring charges.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, we've had a couple of cases where people should have been indicted and weren't. Or the other way around. We've had grand juries that have said no, and we've seen charges come.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's interesting. But it's a good thing with all the COVID junk. It's finally, grand juries are finally meeting back again. So hopefully we're going to see movement in a lot of cases. But it's interesting because your name doesn't get released like, regular jury duty. Nobody's going to be like, what did you hear? Why did you decide to vote that way? Or, whatever. So that's really neat. I wish somebody put me on a grand jury. I want to be on a grand jury.
Another reason that they're secret, which we may not always take into consideration, is the fact that the secrecy also protects the innocent. If you're accused of a crime and you're innocent, and it goes to a grand jury and they find, they come back with a no bill ruling, you're still protected because that information is secret. So it's not like you'll be slammed throughout the media and all this other stuff if you're really innocent. So it's a good protection in our system for innocent people too. So there's a lot of reasons for this to be secret. Now, you talked about the prosecutor has the final say. Let's talk about that because it's a little unclear how that works, just from looking at it. The grand jury can come back and say, no, we decline to indict these people. We don't feel you had enough evidence. That's not the end of things. There's a lot of things the prosecutor can do. The jury will indict or dismiss those charges, but they could also direct the prosecution to file those in a criminal court. They say, just file them with the court, kind of like we saw with the probable cause affidavit with Chad and all of that. They could either elect to send it to family court if they think it's a family court situation, or they could submit a report on it if it's in the public interest kind of thing. But the prosecutor has options. It's not one of those situations where the double jeopardy comes into play, where you can't be tried twice for the same crime, right? It's not that. This doesn't meet that bar. So if the prosecutor goes to a grand jury and they say no, he can go to another grand jury if he wants or she wants, right? And have that another grand jury hear the same evidence. Or they can just file the charges and go the preliminary hearing route. So they do have options. Just because the grand jury says no doesn't mean it's over at all. So
isn't there I'm probably going to show how stupid I am right now. But isn't there also like a state grand jury and a federal grand jury? Isn't that two different courts too?
I think those are two different things.
Charges in both. But I mean, there is both. So if they fail to get it in a state, they could get it in the federal.
I think only if they're bringing federal charges, I believe.
Right.
I believe. So.
But we're seeing that right now with Derek Chauvin.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of people ask about double jeopardy because he's being charged federally. Two different court people. It's not the same thing.
Yep. Someone asked, are grand jurors paid? I don't think they get paid any more than any other, like a trial juror, like a couple dollars a day or something. I have no idea. So double check on that. Can you volunteer to serve? You'll be called for a grand jury. I think you rather jury summons or I don't know, maybe Google it because I would like to be on a grand jury. I think that would be amazing. So find out how we can sign up. Just take me, I'll go. All right, so let's get back to what the grand jury is going to do. So grand jury is a panel of 16 to 23 members. They're going to hear the evidence and testimony presented by the prosecutor, and they get to decide if there's enough to charge them with the crime. Now, the grand jury does not decide guilt or innocence at all. All they're there to do is to say to the prosecutor, yes, you have enough information. Here's the indictment for the charges you wanted. Okay. Or not, right? But they don't get into guilt or innocence. And they can hear many cases over the course of their service, anywhere from a month to 6 month sort of service. So it's a big commitment to be on a grand jury. Now,
don't they vote? Isn't it
yes,
a majority? It's not like a regular jury where
right.
everybody has to agree. It's a majority.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
It does not have to be unanimous. They rule by supermajority, which means 2/3 or 3/4. They have to hit those bars in order for the indictments to come down. But they do not have to unanimously agree. So there's that. Now, a lot of people argue about grand juries, about how easy it seems to be to get a grand jury to indict. And a famous New York judge once said, a grand jury will indict a ham sandwich, because it's kind of an easier route. But that's a philosophical argument that law people apparently like to have a lot. I've seen a lot of videos of that in the last 10 hours. Yeah, I've been up all night watching videos. So
yeah.
Oh, right. So no judge is present. It's only going to be the jury, the prosecutor, witness, and a court reporter. The jurors can't ask questions. I found this interesting. The jurors can ask direct questions of the witnesses, of the prosecution. They can openly deliberate and talk about their stuff. I mean, it's kind of a really interesting process. I would like to go through that someday myself. Now, some people have asked, well, can the defense go to the grand jury hearing? Well, yeah, they can. Right? The accused does have the right. Unless what?
Can't they seal that? Unless it's sealed? Don't they have secret grand juries too? Where they can't, where it's closed?
I don't know. That's a good question. But in a general grand jury sense, the defense does have a right to appear. Well, the accused does, if they want to go before the grand jury to try to present other witnesses for the defense or their own story, but they don't have to appear. They don't even have to be informed of the proceeding. So they may have to get a heads up that it's even happening before them to appear. But it's really, really rare, because you get yourself, if you're accused of a crime and you think you're going to go before a grand jury and help your case, you're probably not thinking too clearly. There are 3 things that can happen that would really harm your defense if you go before a grand jury. Anything that you say before a grand jury can be used in court. So probably a bad idea. Okay. You're also subject to cross-examination, but also not just by the prosecutor, by each member of the jury. So you want to get cross-examined 24 times? Probably not a good idea if you're actually guilty, So if you're innocent, that may be one thing. But also, if the jury chooses to indict, the prosecution, you've just given them a very clear idea of how you're going to defend yourself in court. That's really not a good idea. Okay, so it's very rare that you're going to see somebody who's accused of a crime show up at their own grand jury hearing, because it's not really a good idea. I would think most defense attorneys would argue against that very powerfully, but they do have the right to. Anyway,
I'm pretty sure. What's the hotshot Hollywood guy that just got all the sexual assault charges? What's his name? Why can't I think of his name today?
I don't know.
The guy that showed up in court and he had the walker and the whole thing. The casting guy. What's his name?
Oh, Weinstein?
Weinstein. There you go. All these Stein guys get in trouble. They just did another one he was indicted in New York. They just got a bunch in California. And I'm almost positive that one was sealed because he has no idea who's accusing him now. I'm almost positive that they can seal it where the defense can't come.
It's possible. Yeah. We'll do more research on that. Yeah. Chippy Hick, thank you so much. What a cute name, Chippy Hick. Thank you for the super chat. It says, do all cases have to go to grand jury? No, they don't. As we saw in the earlier last year with Chad, those charges did not go to grand jury. Rob Wood filed the criminal charges against him, and they had a preliminary hearing with the court in order to refer the case to trial. So usually one of those two will happen, a grand jury or a preliminary hearing, not usually both. So Rob Wood picked the prelim, and now we have Lindsay Blake going the grand jury route. So let's talk about that for a bit, Jess, because that's
interesting.
It's interesting. Oh, wait, I have another super chat. Mimi, thank you so much. I hope you're feeling better, and you and I are going to have some powwow time tomorrow. Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate the support. All right, so who filed this?
Is she a new one? Did she just get in office? Is this a new one?
Yep, Lindsay Blake was elected this year, and she took office in January. She is the newly elected prosecutor of Fremont County. Now remember, Rob Wood is the prosecutor of Madison County, but he is named special prosecutor in Fremont County to cover the current case. So my question is, why did Lindsay go for this and not Rob Wood? Raising a few eyebrows. That's all speculation at this point, because certainly they're not going to talk about it. But remember, we saw in Rob Wood's recent filing that he said that Tammy Daybell's autopsy was not turned over to him by the Fremont County prosecutor. So is Lindsay going to be taking this upon herself, to go after?
If she wants to make a name for herself, this is a good way to do it. This isn't it's not just her. We're seeing this with Barry Morphew, brand new prosecutor, just got elected and, taking the reins on this. We haven't seen charges till now. It's been a year. I think a lot of these, and we saw with Letitia too, it was a new DA. They were switching the reins in Colorado Springs when the charges came with her.
Yep.
So it could be that. I'm hoping it's not because she thinks Rob Wood won't prosecute. I'm hoping that's not what's going on.
Yep.
It could be.
Cleta, thank you for the super chat and the super sticker. I really appreciate that. Someone asked in chat, doesn't the grand jury only hear one side of the case? Basically, yes. They hear information from the prosecutor to decide if there's enough evidence there to bring indictments against the accused. That's 99% of the time what happens. Going back to the Rob Wood issue. Now, one thing that we've talked about, I don't know if we have talked about it publicly before or not, all of the charges that we expect to see, the murder charges or conspiracy to commit murder, especially for Tammy, JJ, and Tylee, all of these, could they all be wrapped up into one case? And yes, they can. And that could be what Lindsay is doing. Maybe she wants to wrap it all up into one situation instead of having Rob Wood bring these charges. She's going to bring those charges. And, it just gets really messy and unwieldy. I get that. That could be a possibility and that would make sense. But given that Rob Wood just got this dispensation from the court to bring in Rachel Smith, who we know is a big, heavy hitter, death penalty type prosecutor, why is Lindsay going after those charges? So I'm a little confused as to what's going on there. I think there may be some dynamics going on between the two offices, but maybe they're just working together and be like, you know what, let's put it under one umbrella. We'll all work together and get it done. I hope that's what's happening. I'm not entirely sure. So we're going to have to wait and see on that because we won't hear anything about the grand jury proceedings until it's done.
And one thing that we don't know who these charges are against.
Right.
We just know what they're talking about. We know it's about JJ, Tylee, and Tammy. There could be charges for other people that we don't, that could be why this is going to be a different case. They might be looking at somebody else.
Right. Or it could be just Chad and not Lori, or just Lori and not Chad. So, yeah, or other people that they haven't named yet. And that couldn't be another reason for picking the grand jury option, because that keeps that secret much longer. Yep. So there's a lot of could be's and what ifs with this situation, but the bottom line is it's good. It's good news.
Just play devil's advocate. Mark Means and Pryor can't be arguing over discovery with Rob Wood if it's not his case.
Mm-hmm.
If it comes somewhere else, that's the only person to argue with. He doesn't have to. He might not have the discovery that they have.
Yep. Miss Wee Lassie asks, would choosing a grand jury possibly move a trial onto a faster trial than, say, just having a preliminary trial? Not necessarily, because a preliminary hearing is not actually a trial. These are just two different avenues for prosecutors to bring charges against somebody for crimes. They can pick either option they want. There's different reasons to go with each one. Will it make anything happen faster? Not necessarily, but a grand jury can be seen to be a little bit more expedient, a little bit more financially plausible, because you're not having to go through this whole big preliminary hearing that's run kind of like a trial, as we saw with Chad. So it could be a little bit faster that way, but it's not going to make the trial happen any faster. So,
well, the point of having a prelim or a grand jury meet is so that you're not arrested and sitting in jail on bogus charges. They have to prove to the court that there's sufficient evidence to have you sitting there waiting on a trial.
Yeah.
This is really to protect the accused in a way.
Mm-hmm.
You have to kind of think about what the purpose of it is.
Yep.
It's just a step so that they can't say, "Oh yeah, we think you did something. We can't get you on the court calendar for 2 years, so no bond for you. You're going to sit here while we try to put something together." It's a protection against you sitting there for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
So
now, people in chat are asking why Fremont County. The remains of JJ and Tylee were found in Chad's backyard, which is technically Fremont County. It's in Salem, Idaho, just over the line from Rexburg. So that's why this is being done through the Fremont County Prosecutor's Office. And this is why Rob Wood, who is in Madison County, where Lori lived, he was named special prosecutor so he could have jurisdiction in Fremont County to deal with these charges. So this is a Fremont County case with a little bit happening in Madison County.
Well, this is a one-house case. It's 3 dead bodies in one house.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So definitely Lindsay Blake is looking at that as, hey, this belongs to our county. So, Got Case says, I expect that they want to keep information under wraps for now, as opposed to showing their entire hand at a prelim. Absolutely. Now, they don't have to show their entire hand at a prelim, but they have to show a fair bit of it, as we saw with Chad's. We learned some information from that prelim. So this is a good way for prosecutors to kind of keep everything quiet, to really be able to hash through the evidence with the grand jury and bring those indictments. And that's what we've been wanting for, over a year now. Murder charges.
Exactly.
Murder charges for these kids. Not for the kids, for the people that killed them. You know what I mean?
But it will not show their hand, but in a way, it will tell us if the charges come, they have evidence. So we won't be, contemplating how much do they know. Are they going to get away with it? I mean, we might not know the specifics, but we are going to know they got something if a grand jury indicted. X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So that can help you sleep at night. Because we've spent many, many hours speculating what they have, what they don't have, what's taken so long, So this is a good thing.
It is a good thing. And the fact, what really struck me the most hearing the news last night was that these are about JJ, Tylee, and Tammy. That changed my opinion of this. It was like, oh, well, if they're going to try to bring all 3 of those into this world here, then we are most likely looking at murder charges, or at least conspiracy to commit murder. And it could be just about Chad. So, I'm hoping that it's both of them, but it could be just about Chad. Let's see. How much time does a grand jury take to deliberate a case? I think that's a little case-by-case basis. This case, they have booked, according to Court TV, 4 days, the 17th through the 20th. So, 3 days. So they may expect it to take that long just to provide all the evidence, and see how it goes. But it should be a 3-day situation, according to Court TV. We're going to have to wait and see.
I mean, just speculating. I haven't talked to you about this, but I mean, that should tell you, number one, the autopsy did not come back normal, which we haven't thought the whole time since they've kept it private. If it came back as natural causes, like Joe Ryan's and Alex's and all this other stuff, we would have seen it by now. So we've all kind of thought that it was weird. So, bringing charges about Tammy means there's something on there.
Possibly, or it could be, you have to remember, it could be inconclusive and they're going to go with more circumstantial evidence, So it doesn't necessarily mean the autopsy shows something, shows murder or homicide as cause of death, but they could have something that they can work with circumstantially to tie it in.
But it also tells you that they're not bringing charges against Alex. Alex is dead. So there's evidence somewhere.
Yep.
Between those 3 cases and, some amounts that this is about Chad or Lori, or Chad and Lori, or, anybody else that might be roped in.
Yep.
That's sitting pretty and doesn't have a lawyer.
D. Hutchison asked, do you think the Fremont prosecutor is tired of waiting on Mr. Wood to charge? Seems like she may be trying to take over the case. That's something that I've been tossing around in my head the last 12 hours. Why is she doing? Now, remember, because Rob Wood said that the Fremont County prosecutor had not turned over Tammy's autopsy to him. I found that striking. So does she? Yeah. Does she want to do this case herself? Is she tired of waiting? Although I'm not sure that's the case, because remember from the latest argument we had in court, Rob Wood is just getting DNA evidence back now. The last batch was on April 12th. That's not very long ago. And he couldn't go forward with charges until he's gotten all the forensics back, at least some of them. So it could just be the delay that we've been, biting our nails through is because of the backlog of the forensic testing. If it's just coming back now, it seems logical that now it would go to a grand jury because now they've got more evidence. So that's possible too.
So I don't know the answer to this. So who has, I want to say jurisdiction, but I know that's not the right word, but if the grand jury indicts, Rob Wood has been named as the special prosecutor for this case.
Right.
So what happened? Does she take the ball? I mean,
it's up to her.
Is it whoever goes first? Like whoever puts charges down first?
Nope, it's up to her. She has control of Fremont County. Rob Wood, as a special prosecutor, can't go over her head. He's still under her purview. So it would come down to what Lindsay wants to do. So that'll be interesting to see.
If she pursues that, could there be two cases at the same time, or would he have to step back and those go back?
They could be pursuing the current track that we have with a conspiracy to conceal charges. Right. And then Lindsay could bring conspiracy to commit murder charges in a whole separate case. I'm not sure the courts would really, go with that. They might just combine everything.
Weird.
We're just gonna have to wait and see how this happens, because I'm very curious to get to know why Lindsay is pushing for the grand jury and not Rob Wood. I think there's something there. I don't know what it could be, but it could be significant. So we're going to have to see. Maureen Johnson said, Rob, his case is separate and distinct from the grand jury proceedings. He is not special prosecutor for a murder case. It hasn't been indicted yet. No, right. He is not. But as special prosecutor for the current cases, that does give him jurisdiction over any legal issues or criminal acts that may come up as a result of his investigation into the current charges. So, he's not allowed to bring murder charges. He could have dropped them himself. So is there, a power struggle going on here, or are they just working together to just get the whole thing into one umbrella? We don't know. We're going to have to wait and see.
So if this comes, we're going to take a big leap here and assume it's Chad and Lori together. After the grand jury, she can't press the same charges that are already out.
Right.
Right? It would just be whatever, since they already have those out there.
Right.
So they would have to agree to combine them or pursue them separately.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. Rainy April says, Rainy April asks, remember Rob Wood is not asking for compensation for Fremont County for the expenses involving Rachel Smith. That's something that I was just talking to Jess about earlier before we came live. I was like, if Lindsay Blake is going to take the murder charges full on in Fremont County, as she has every right to do, what does that do with Rachel Smith? Because Madison County is paying for Rachel Smith, which certainly puts her under the purview of special prosecutor in Fremont County as well. But that's a lot of money to be spending on an out-of-state prosecutor who's not going to be prosecuting the murder charges. What's going on?
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money considering she's a hotshot death penalty.
Yes.
Prosecutor, when all that's sitting there right now are 10 years?
Yep.
Worth of charges? That's it.
Mm-hmm. But it could very well be that Rachel Smith will be working with Lindsay Blake. So that would be good to see. I would like to see two women go at this case. That would make me very happy. Very happy.
It would be nice to see anything happen in this case that's not a hearing about prosecutors and defense attorneys bickering about what hasn't been sent, what's been said, who's incompetent, and who needs to get off the case. It would be nice to actually see something happen.
Definitely.
So I'm going to take it as good news.
It's definitely good news. No matter who's going to prosecute it or whatever, this is great news. All the worrying about who's running the show behind the scenes, that's neither here nor there. They are pursuing more indictments against possibly Chad and Lori. We don't even know who they're going against, but they're pursuing more charges in the deaths of JJ and Tylee and Tammy. And that makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside, because we've been waiting way too long to see some movement on that front. So I'm very happy about that. And maybe, maybe when these cases finally get resolved, maybe even years from now, then they'll do something about Charles and Joseph. I would like to see that too.
Either way, it's more eyeballs on the case, Rob Wood, I'm sure he has a team. I don't know how big it is, but those people have been looking at a whole lot of information. I know we've looked at a lot of information. I can't imagine what they have, available to them to look at. So bringing Rachel in was like, oh, good. There's some more eyeballs on the case. This has got to be good news if a whole nother county has got eyeballs on it too with her own team. They're not going to miss anything is what I'm hoping.
Yep.
Just more people sifting through all of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good thing.
No, I see a couple comments in chat about people saying, why don't they just tell us what's going on? Why does everything have to be secret? I get that feeling. I do. We have it too. But in the case of the grand jury, I don't even think technically we're supposed to know that there's a grand jury going on, that one has even been convened for this issue, let alone what happens inside it. It's secret, and it needs to be secret to preserve our justice system. All right, so we're going to have to just kind of grin and bear it as we wait for information. But, we'll see. And COVID has definitely slowed down grand juries because they have to be there in person. They have to be all together. So, we're lucky that we have one now. So let's be thankful for that. We'll wait and see what happens, but I'm kind of excited.
So one thing they didn't do on Zoom.
Yeah, luckily, you can do a grand jury on Zoom. Yeah. Someone said that the wheels of justice are very slow, and this case is glacial. It's gonna be. This is gonna be. We're talking years, guys. I know nobody wants to hear that, but this is gonna be a very long process. So this is a big step. This is like step one towards bigger charges. And man, that feels good to see finally some movement on that front. So
yeah. I always go back to Tim Jones Jr. 4.5 years, 4.5 years, and he confessed. And they had, he showed them where the bodies was. He didn't try to blame anybody else, and it still took 4.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So
BreadinTube says, it's especially huge about including Tammy in convening this grand jury. Evidently, her autopsy must have shown something nefarious. Not necessarily. We don't know what's in the autopsy. It could be something. It could be inconclusive. It could be nothing. But they could have enough circumstantial evidence about Tammy where the autopsy is like, yeah, well, this says this. But the focus will be on the circumstantial evidence. Because remember, circumstantial evidence is still evidence. So it could be that. But I'm hoping that there's something in the autopsy that'll tie it all together with a nice big bow.
Well, I would say it's a pretty safe bet that it didn't come back as natural causes, I doubt they'd take that to a grand jury if it was like, oh, yeah, everything here is above board. She just killed over,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep. Mimi says, this feels great and even greater for Kay, Larry, and all the family. Thoughts and prayers to all of them through all this going forward. Oh, Kresha. Hi, Kresha. How are you doing? I hope you're feeling good.
Hello, Kresha.
Kresha, you butt dialed me yesterday. We were so excited about this news, just so you know. Kresha says, my uncle was the definition of chivalry. His kids come first in the hereafter as well. Speaking about Charles Vallow. And looking at the pictures of Charles with JJ, you see so much love in that man's face. Oh, he adored JJ, and this is
one thing, though.
Step.
Like, it wasn't just his kids. Whenever we were working on a picture thing, and I looked at a lot of pictures, he just seems so dang happy and like genuinely.
Yes.
When you take a picture of somebody, you can tell them to smile, and you can tell when people are like, yeah, we're smiling. A lot of times that's Lori. You can really see the contrast between Lori smiling for the camera and the way that Charles smiled.
Yes.
It just seems so genuine, and it didn't matter who was in the picture. There's pictures of him and Colby and him and Lori, and he just seemed like you feel like him. He seemed like such a warm person that genuinely cared about the people. Like, he took responsibility for the people around him.
Yes, he did.
He seems like that was really a big thing to him, that he took responsibility for the people that were entrusted to him in a way.
Yep. And one thing that, I'm working on my research side of things is all of the people that ever encountered Lori and Charles and Joseph and the kids throughout all of these years who were brought information that there were big problems, who saw big problems with their own eyes, who did psychological evaluations of Lori and saw problems, and nothing ever came of it. Nothing. We're talking back to like 1998. All right. We have reports of all of these psychological issues that Lori was exhibiting, and nothing was ever done. Nothing was ever done. Charles pleaded to the police many times. You got to help me. My wife is trying to kill me. She took the kids. She took my truck. She told my house. I don't know what's going on. Help. And they didn't help him. They believed Lori. And they even encouraged Lori to get out of the police station fast enough before Charles could get there with the order to have her held for a psych hold. That makes my head explode. And that's one of the research avenues that I'm pursuing behind this, because there needs to be accountability. There are so many people who could have stopped this at some point, but for whatever reason, they didn't. I'm not blaming them as such. A lot of the times the system prevents things from happening that should happen. That's just the way family court can kind of drop the ball in a big way. We see that a lot. But still, this could have been stopped had anyone really made a stink about it. So, but remember, the main blame is on the people who perpetrated the crime, not the people who did it. But it's still something that needs to be looked at, I think.
Yep. The CPS and Child and Family Services, whatever they're called in your state, they're a safety net. They're not going to catch everything before it happens. But when you start seeing that there's big holes in the safety net, something needs to happen to the safety net.
Exactly. Yep.
It's not their fault it happened, obviously, but there needs to be some major accountability.
Yep. Like Gotke says, in order to fix the cracks in the system, we have to shine a light through them and seal the cracks. That's what I think. If anything, and I don't want to say anything good because this is not a good situation, but if we can have any positive effect on the world going forward as a result of this case, let's fix the system that dropped JJ and Tylee right through those cracks. Let's fix it so this doesn't happen to any more kids.
But, when I started my channel, it was kind of like, because we had discussed the Letitia case, and it was like I was trying to help you get ready for that because we thought you were going to cover it, and then you were just like, no, that's a little much. But then the more that I got into it, I was like, well, if I'm going to make a channel, what do I want to talk about? And I've got my problems with CPS. That seems to be my red button issue. Yep. I keep going over these cases where they fall through. We followed all these cases with Paul before either one of us had a channel. And that always seemed to be the common denominator. When you saw these god-awful kid cases, it was like CPS was involved. And you're like, what happened? Why are we paying you if to not get something to happen, And unfortunately, with COVID, it's gotten worse. It's not getting better. I'm one of those people, I will give credit where credit is due. California, believe it or not, has been doing, LA County anyway, has really been working on their CPS system. They've done all kinds of reports in the past so many years about problems, and they recognize the problems, and they're taking the criticism, and they're opening child protective social worker schools, which is amazing, kind of like when you go to FBI school or whatever. This is just for social workers. It's a really in-depth school, and that's a good thing. So I will give credit where credit is due. But COVID, there are most states completely shut down in-home visits of foster kids. That's ridiculous. That's stupid. Of all the people that should have been in the homes during COVID, foster care probably should have been there more often than they were before.
Yeah.
Because you've got all these kids not going to school. They're not being in front of mandated reporters. And then the kids who are already have been flagged as not just at risk, but are in risk majorly, and you're not even going to check on them in person.
Yeah.
That's why we're seeing all these kid cases this year, guys. And I'm telling you, this is the tip of the iceberg. When all the bodies start coming out, there's going to be a whole lot of cases that we're not even going to hear about that are terrible. I think there's going to be a lot of kids that went missing that we're going to even have a count of because they moved across state lines and nobody reported them missing and nobody noticed.
Like Kresha said in chat, the best way for change or the best apology is changed behavior. And we need to see that with the system. So all of these people that dropped the ball and over all these decades dealing with Lori, we're not blaming you, but let's work together and let's change the system. Let's fill those cracks so this doesn't happen again, because it happens way too much. Now, something that came up in chat while you were chatting. All right, this is a little bit off topic because we are here to talk about the grand jury thing. But Kresha says that toxic bliss and surviving narcissism is a deeply woven aspect of this case. And it really is. We're going to be talking about spiritual narcissism and how that leads to these situations. Like there's a roadmap, right? And my biggest concern is that the spiritual narcissist that created the environment that created the Chad and Lori types is still at work. And they're creating more. Are we going to see this again, or can we do something?
Of course we are.
Yep. So we need to do something to bring that to light, to shed light on it, so that can maybe stop and people can be a little more aware of these things before jumping into these cult type groups. And because we don't ever want to see this again. Cannot handle it. Cannot handle this. So
people probably rake me over the coals, but it's my opinion that we've got more than one narcissist in this woodpile.
Yeah, yes, it's like the narcissist summer camp group, I think.
And Chad's not it, people. Chad's not it. In my opinion. I mean, obviously, I'm not a psychologist. I worked with domestic violence victims, and I've worked with CPS and all that kind of stuff. Narcissism is a big problem in all those aspects. But I definitely think we have more than one in this woodpile that needs to be shaken out.
Mm-hmm.
That are still active and feeding off of other people. Yeah.
So I'm just reading chat. There's some stuff going on in chat. I'm gonna let the moderators handle it because I don't even know what that was about. Okay. Anyway,
don't make me come down there and moderate people. Do not make me come down there.
You won't like her when she moderates.
You don't like me when I moderate because I don't time people out. You're just gone.
Let's sum up what we have for today. Chippy Hick, thank you again for the super chat. It says, time to poop or get off the portal potty. Yes, it is. I agree.
Fish or cut bait. There you go.
Yesterday, we got news from Court TV. They are saying that Fremont County Prosecutor Lindsay Blake has called for the convening of a grand jury to hear evidence in the cases of J.J. Vallow, Tylee and Tammy Daybell. We don't know which person they are going to try and get indictments against. It could be Chad. It could be Chad and Lori, just Lori, or somebody else that we haven't even heard about yet. Chances are we've heard about them, but we don't know that they're suspects. So we don't know. But it's really good news. It means that there is movement in the case. Finally, we're not just talking about concealing evidence. Now we are talking about something much bigger than that. And I cannot wait for this to happen. The grand jury will be convening on May 17th through the 20th. We're probably not going to hear much. Okay, we're never going to hear what happens inside the proceedings, so don't hold your breath for that. They're secret for a reason. But we will see what happens as a result. Will there be charges filed on the 21st? Maybe. Could they wait a couple of weeks? Possibly. But now we know for sure it's in the works. And it's like, whew, I took such a deep breath last night after jumping up and down and hooping and hollering because we wanted to hear this for a long time. So I feel really good about this. Jess, how about you?
I think it would be real interesting to see murder charges dropped on June 9th, wouldn't you?
It would be. It would be. That would be rather fitting. Why haven't Justin or Nate posted anything? Basically because there's no way to confirm this. All right. The only source of the information about the grand jury is Court TV. Chanley Painter was on last night. Now, Chanley is doing a great job covering this case, but there is no way to verify it. Grand jury proceedings are secret. You're not going to call the courthouse and say, hey, here's the grand jury story. They're not going to tell you. The prosecutor's office is not going to tell you. The defense offices may not even know. So there's no way to confirm it. So that's why Justin and Nate are probably not running with it yet. I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will, because
somebody spoke that wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, that's what it means. Yep. But it's also really good news. And, I doubt Shanley Painter is making this up. That would be really bad. So, Kresha asks, does either defendant have to be present during the grand jury hearing? They definitely do not have to be. They can be if they really wanted to, but that is extremely rare. So I don't expect Chad Lori or their lawyers or anyone else accused of crime to show up at the grand jury proceedings. This is just really between the prosecution and the jury to get the charges going, to get the indictments. So,
and if it's a sealed one, they couldn't. If I'm right, I guess.
Right, if you're right about that, I'm not sure. Yep. Let's see. Praying charges come soon and relieved for the moment in the case, ready for justice for Tylee, JJ, Charles, Tammy, and Joe. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Kresha says they're swamped over there in East Idaho with bad stuff happening left and right. Yeah, they had a school shooting. Nate covered that the other day, and that was so hard because watching him cover it, that was really hard for him to cover, and that was tragic. It was a sixth grade girl who did. It's like, what had to happen to that girl's life to bring her to that point?
Well, what stuck out to me was that it was a girl. There's only been one school shooter that was a girl.
Right. That's really rare.
So far. Yeah, it's very rare.
Yeah. So Nate's been busy with that.
They've had some other... What case were you telling me about the other day that was over there? They had some missing kids that were found dead too, right? In that same town? That's
the Connie Smith child. Was it my names are all. I've had a week, y'all.
I know.
But there's another case in Idaho of a grandmother who was charged, and I have been following her hearings. They found the body of her granddaughter in a garbage bag in the trunk of her car. The two older children had run away, but authorities say they were in contact with them and they know they're okay. But
that's good.
Oh my goodness, that's a thing.
It's not just East Idaho. It's everywhere. It is everywhere right now. There is so much stuff going on. Like, I can't keep up with it. The cases, I can't even keep up with it.
Yeah. Let's see. As far as I'm not sure. Someone's asking if anyone's heard about the grand jury proceedings from Rob Wood or the prosecutor's office. Probably won't. Although I would think that they would tell the family, yes, we're convening a grand jury, but that's all they would say. But I don't think they've confirmed that yet either. So, it is a risk kind of running with this when it only comes from Court TV. They have been a little clickbaity and stuff lately, if you want to put it that way. But I do believe this. I don't think Shanley Painter would run with that unless she knew for darn sure she was right. But we have to just keep that in the back of our minds.
They have a little more credibility than like Inside Edition.
A little bit, yeah. At this point, marginally, yeah. Oh, but I'm happy. I'm so happy to hear this. I know certain people over here in chat were hooping and hollering last night and jumping up and down. This is what we have wanted for a long time. So, I don't know. I'm really excited. Hopefully we'll hear charges shortly after the grand jury's proceedings. I would assume if they've booked the 17th to the 20th for this, needing 3 days for that's kind of a big deal. And I hope we'll hear charges immediately after. Because I think that's going to help everyone relax a bit, knowing they're not going to walk. They will be charged with these crimes. It's going to be okay. So, whew.
I really hope so. Kind of takes the sting off Letitia not going to preliminary trial on the 20th.
Yep. And Kresha says,
I'm looking forward to that.
Kresha says, Court TV would need to fear feeling the fire if it was untrue. Yes, this play on Melanie Gibbs' book, Feel the Fire. They would definitely feel the fire if they put this out there and it was not true, especially if they knew it was not true. So I don't think they're doing that. That would be
that's cute.
Incredibly responsible.
Give it a little more credibility than it deserves. Book implies that it was proofread, edited, and published in any kind of professional way.
Yep. Crime Powwow says, seems like the need for a grand jury is going to help people talk and feel protected in talking. Yes, 100%. One of the main reasons that the grand jury proceedings are secret is that it protects the witnesses. It allows them to speak freely, and it helps them to be more cooperative because they're not on TV broadcast in a trial. Their name isn't splashed all over the news as a witness. It really creates an environment where witnesses can speak a lot more freely, and that is really, really good. So as much as we want to see it on TV, we can't, and this is why. But it's definitely in the service of justice to have a secret. So I'm excited for that. How do they choose the jurors? I'm not entirely sure. I believe you can get a grand jury summon, like you would a normal jury summon, but I'm not entirely sure, Leah. So I'll have to look that up. It's been a long night, very long night since this dropped. But
it's a random thing, though. It's not something you sign up for.
Right. I would love to be on a grand jury. If you could sign up as like a professional grand juror, that would be a lot of fun. I really would.
I signed up for a thing, I don't know, it's probably been 9 months ago now. I got an email, I don't know how I got on that list, but I don't really care. But it was like, we will send you cases, and, you can read the documents, and then you would decide, like, if you were a juror, which way would you go? And I'm like, oh, yeah, sign me up for that all day long. Mm-hmm. But I never got anything back after I couldn't sign up fast enough. There's no telling what kind of scam that was. I threw my name on it real quick, though.
Yep. If the mods could drop a link to Kresh's channel in chat. Kresha said she did a video last week on the grand jury versus jury trial, and that's a really good thing to check out. There's a huge difference between what a grand jury does, what a jury trial does, and how they run, how they operate, all of that. Really, really big. They're like two totally different things. So
it's very one-sided.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really get a defense side in a grand jury.
Yep. The grand jury is only to decide if charges should be brought, not for guilt or innocence. So it's not really about the defense. It's not about the defendant. It's not about the accused. This is about the state saying, hey, I've got all this evidence. Can I have some charges, please? And they say, yep, you're right. Sure. Here are your charges. And then it goes to court. So,
well, just kind of imagine Chad's preliminary trial if half of that courtroom was gone. If you never had to look at Chad, you never had to look at John Pryor, and the only people asking questions are the jurors, as far as that's the only people asking questions. But you would only get the evidence from the prosecutor, and then the cross-examination comes from the actual jurors.
Yeah.
So it looks a lot different than a jury trial.
Yep. Krisha says it makes her feel more secure. I totally agree. I like this process. I'm a fan of grand juries. I was surprised when when we had the preliminary for Chad, that there weren't indictments from the grand jury. It's like, oh, okay. But, that was a fast thing because they picked him up, arrested him. They found remains in his yard. So that had to happen lickety split. So
it takes a lot of your personal feelings out of it if you're the prosecutor. A ton of people, are making a big deal about who all involved in the case is part of the church. It completely takes that out of it. Because you're not saying, oh, they're holding charges back because they're part of the church and they don't want to do this, or the church is holding them back. And I'm not saying that's what's going on, but it completely takes that argument out of it because you're putting it in the hands of random people from the community. They're deciding whether or not the charges are going to the extent. I mean, they can still, like we said earlier, they can decide not to bring them or to bring them anyway. But it does take that piece of it out, which was a good thing, especially in this case. That's a good thing.
Yep. Marta Rosner says in California, the grand jury is a 12-month obligation. That's a long time. I've heard of 3 and 6 month runs. I haven't heard of a 12-year run, but wow. But they don't meet every day, day in and day out. They meet maybe once or twice a week or once or twice a month. So that makes sense to me. But still, I would love to do that. Whew.
I would bet whenever they interview people, like the voir dire kind of thing, I bet you they get people who work from home or don't have 9 to 5 Monday to Friday kind of jobs.
Well, from what I've heard, there's no voir dire process for a grand jury. They're not questioned about bias or anything like that. So yeah, it's a wholly different situation. Kathy Sears says, so this only means prosecutors subpoenaing witnesses, no defense lawyers. The accused can take part in the proceeding under certain circumstances. I read they have the right to appear before the grand jury if they choose to. It's almost never done, but it can be. And the accused who's showing up in front of the grand jury can call other witnesses if they want. But I don't think we're going to see that here. It's very, very rarely done. So, yeah.
Here's a question I have. Is there any chances we'll see different defense lawyers? If it's two separate cases, I mean, what do you think they would take both of them?
I think they'd probably both have to go for public defenders because I don't think any of them have any money to retain new counsel. But
that would
they
be interesting,
could.
wouldn't it?
That would be really messy. That would be immensely messy. But, it's Chad and Lori, so let's not be surprised. Oh, but I really, my theory about what's going to happen is they will go to the grand jury. They will wrap all of these charges up together. The conspiracy to conceal evidence charges, conspiracy to commit murder, or straight murder charges, whatever they're going to be, and wrap it all into one big case for JJ, Tylee, and Tammy, and prosecuted in Fremont County, hopefully by Lindsay with Rob Wood and Rachel Smith right with her. They all team up together, get it done under one umbrella, and then, maybe this can finally get resolved. It may take a couple years, but that's what I would like to see. So,
yeah.
Cooter Brown asked, does Chad talk to aliens? Well,
are you asking him or us or the
aliens? At this point, Chad's probably talking to anyone who will listen to him. So,
oh, do you know who's not watching this right now? Julie Rowe, because she has some crazy thing in Salt Lake City today.
Oh,
I saw that.
You mean,
yeah.
You're not going? Gosh, Jess.
Who said I'm not there? I just said I know she's not watching. I could be there. I've got rainbow twirlers going. I'm telling you.
Kathy Suter asked, what if they do get religious zealots on the grand jury? That's quite possible. It's definitely possible.
16 to 23 of them.
Yep. But then again, remember, if the grand jury comes back and declines to indict the accused and they come back with a no bill ruling, the prosecutor can still press charges. So it's not the end of the world. They could go for another grand jury. They could just file the charges through criminal court. So it doesn't mean that nothing will ever happen. So
I just think if you did, okay, the chances of you getting 16 to 23, all Mormon, LDS, highly religious people. If it were me, I would want to prosecute the crazies. I mean, I would, I wouldn't be like, oh, they're kind of part of the church. Let's not press charges so that's not scrutinized. I would absolutely want to press all the charges for the crazies.
Yep.
I don't see how anybody would want to, that was, genuinely part of the church, would want to protect people who have dead people showing up every which way,
Right.
My opinion, but
Jack McCabe asks, wait, how does an accused person attend a grand jury before an indictment? They have not been charged yet. Yep, and that's a very curious thing. I'm not entirely sure of the mechanism of how that happens, but from all of my reading last night and research, it said that the accused has a right to appear before the grand jury if they choose. They can ask the jury to present other witnesses for the defense, but they do not have to appear or even be informed of the proceedings. It is very rare for this to ever happen. So I'm not sure by what mechanism they would appear, but they do, I guess, if they know about it, have a right to. That's kind of curious to me. So I'd like to get more information on how that would happen. I don't think that's going to happen here because that would be really not smart. So John Pryor, Mark Meads, if you're listening, don't try to get Chad and Lori into the grand jury. That won't end well. not a good thing to do.
Either. Right? Y'all don't go either.
They can't. It's not like the defense attorney can just show up and sit and watch the proceedings. They cannot do that. So as far as I know, the only people allowed in the jury room will be the grand jury, the prosecutor, any witnesses that are called by the prosecutor, and the court reporter. There's not even a judge present. So I don't think the defense can just go sit in and listen on what's going on. It's not how it works. So
interesting. I mean, I've never heard that there's not a judge present, even to keep order in the courtroom.
Right, because it's not a courtroom. It's not a courtroom setting. There's the images that I saw of grand juries, they have a large seating area, kind of like a jury box, but not. And then there's a big table in the front where the prosecutor stands with all their evidence and stuff, place for a witness to talk to the grand jury. But it's very casual in a sense.
Maybe they run it on Zoom.
I don't think so, but
no, I don't think they should have been doing what they've been doing on Zoom.
Yeah. But when a witness is on the stand, the grand jury can ask them direct questions themselves. So that's kind of fascinating to me how that would happen. Pandora's Karma says, I think if the 2/3 of the grand jury agrees on a decision, then it goes forward. Yep, it has to be a super majority. So either 2/3 or 3/4 of the grand jury has to agree on the decision. It does not have to be unanimous. And that's why a lot of people say grand juries will indict a ham sandwich. So, oh, but let's see. I'm just checking on chat.
I've heard from one place that that's what happened with Barry Morphew, that's why these charges came, that they went to a grand jury. But, like you said, you can't confirm or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I've heard that in one place, but I don't, obviously I don't know if it's true.
Yep. Yep, Kresha also has a good point. They're also able to see more invasive evidence. Things that you would never see in a preliminary hearing can come up in the grand jury because of the secrecy. So that's really good.
Well, I'd say you could get evidence in that that a judge might not even let in, previous crimes or, stuff that we might not ever see.
Mm-hmm.
They probably don't go through how they got it. Hey, we have a text message. Oh, really? Did you? They could probably use statements, and it wouldn't be, well, were they Mirandized, or did you have a warrant, or whatever. I would say that's probably not a big chunk of it,
Yep. Brennan Tube has a question. She says, if there is a grand jury and the recommended indictment, then there is no preliminary hearing. Now, that's what I've come to understand, although someone else in chat is saying that's not true. But when we were talking about Chad's preliminary hearing, everything that we found said they're doing the preliminary in lieu of the grand jury. You can kind of go one way or the other. Rob Wood dropped criminal charges in criminal court. They had the preliminary hearing and went that way. In this case, we're going the grand jury route. They'll bring the indictments, and that will then transfer into the court hearings. I don't think if you get the grand jury indictments, then you have a preliminary hearing. There will be pretrial hearings and all that stuff, but I think those are two separate things that would. You wouldn't need to do both.
I think you can, though. I think if the defense is trying to get the charges dropped before it goes,
right,
that they can ask for that. If it's true that Barry Morphew got a grand jury indictment, he's scheduled for a preliminary trial.
Right. It could be that
I don't know.
You either have the criminal in court and the preliminary hearing, or you have the grand jury and the preliminary. It could be something like that. We're going to have to get more information on that. But I will look that up and find out and let you all know, of course. Kresha says, grand jury indictment equals advancement versus jury trial, where you go back and begin in front of the magistrate. Okay. All right. That makes a lot of sense.
I think maybe you should have had Kresha on here instead of me. That's what I'm thinking.
But, man, I'm excited. We have real movement, and we're all this bickering about discovery and all of these little filings back and forth between the state and the defense and all of that is like, okay, whatever, but you're not getting us any closer to justice with all this stuff. It doesn't feel that way. I mean, it technically is, but this feels like we're really moving.
That's been my argument now for months, whether these hearings have been validated or, whatever. My whole thing has been, this is very, very quickly has become not about the kids.
Yeah.
It's about the lawyers, it hasn't been the focus.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole lot of crazy. So.
Just to go back to Kresha's comment for a second, because there's still questions coming up. The grand jury indictment equals advancement. Okay, versus the jury trial where you go back and begin in front of the magistrate. Remember when we had Chad's charges, first they had the preliminary hearing in front of the magistrate judge, Judge Edens, who we all really liked. We all missed Judge Edens. He was great. Judge Edens had to rule if there was enough evidence for the case to proceed to the district court. And then it was advanced to the next court. Now we have Judge Boyce. So what Kresh is saying is the grand jury indictment is that advancement from the magistrate court to the district court. So we don't need the grand jury indictment and a preliminary hearing to do that, because that's what the grand jury indictments are for. So that's what we thought. That's what I said back during Chad's prelim. So that makes perfect sense to me. I'm going to run with that.
Yeah,
what do you think? Let's run with that. That sounds good.
Run with that.
I also had a comment that, and this was kind of interesting. Someone said the Fremont County prosecutor was Linda, I can't remember her last name, the one who brought the charges against Barry Morphew. And I'm like,
that's
no.
in another state.
Right. Yeah, that's in Colorado. This is Idaho. So those are two totally different things. The prosecutor we are dealing with in this is Lindsay Blake, who was just elected this year. So this is a great case for her to certainly get, her career going. Somebody wants Judge Edits
really
back.
Clubs it up. Yeah, me and you both, whoever that was. Me and you both.
Yeah. Everybody wants Judge
all
Edits.
day long.
Oh. Sorry, reading chat. Court TV has said this. Justin has not gotten it confirmed or posted. Yep. Because there's really no way to get it confirmed. I can't call Rob Wood's office and they're going to say, yep, we're doing it. I can't call Lindsay Blake's office. They're not going to confirm. Nobody's going to confirm it. The court's not going to confirm it. So we just have to go on the assumption that Court TV has done their homework.
No, Court TV has somebody talking that shouldn't be. Court TV shouldn't know this either. It's not that we don't have the connections to know it. Nobody's supposed to know about it.
Yep. But we know, and now it's out there, and it's exciting news. So, what else is going on this week? Jess, there's a lot going on. Letitia Stauch. You want to hit on some of those crazy things?
We're going to do another status hearing for Letitia with no cameras in the courtroom, because I hate it, on the 10th, which is going to be, she saw 2 different judges. They gave her a new team of defense attorneys, public defenders. She asked for state attorneys, whatever. But I guess they're all going to get together and try to pick another trial date. My opinion, I think it's going to get punted till next year. I think that the new people are going to say we absolutely can't do it by this fall, maybe by this winter, and they're going to say, oh, with all the holidays and this, that, and the other, we're just going to put it off. I'm going to go February. I'm just going to put that out there. I bet you we don't see a trial date set till February, and I don't think it'll go then either. But I bet you it's going to get kicked to next year at this point.
Yep. Sam Costa says, so I don't mean to get off that track, but I don't fully trust Court TV, just my opinion. Sam, I agree with you. They've run with some things over the last year that have made me smack my dang head and be like, what are you doing? But I do trust Chanley Painter. She's done a lot of work on this case. She's great. And if she says that she has confirmed this with multiple sources, I believe her. At least I really, really hope she has. Because that would be...
She's going to look really bad if it's wrong.
I think that would be legally dangerous to run with that story if it wasn't true. So, if murder charges in Fremont County will get another judge, current judge seems a little unsure. The judge is supposed to be in charge, but he seems meek in court. I'm not sure if we're going to get another judge. It depends what they do with it. If they wrap it all into one case, we could continue along with Judge Boyce. There could be a second judge if this is a separate trial than the current charges, which would be, a really big strain on the system. So we're just going to have to go with it.
I think we're going to get in my opinion, we're going to get a new judge anyway. I think they're going to move it. I think they're going to get a change of venue, no matter who gets it. And I don't think it's staying in either county.
Yep, I agree with that. Crusher says, can we just enjoy a little bit of good news? I agree. Let's not worry about all of the stuff that's going on. And I would assume that this is true. And we're going to have the grand jury. And that means we could see charges as of the 21st. I wouldn't expect them on the 21st, but they're coming. They're going to, just knowing what we know about the case, how do you think they're going to present information to a grand jury that is so much more than we even know and not get some indictments, So I am really hopeful. I am excited about this. And let's go with that. Let's go with that. Justice is moving. It's going to be slow, but it's moving finally. So let's be excited. And tomorrow's Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to Kresha. Happy Mother's Day to Kay and Annie Cushing and all of the family involved in this case. This is what a great Mother's Day gift to know that justice is moving and these wheels are turning. So that is fantastic. Yay.
And hopefully it will run them over very soon. Now that it's moving.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's about it. That's all. I mean, I can't really, there's no documents to go with this. There's no confirmation. There's nothing else I can give you to make this more exciting news. We just have to know there's a grand jury. They're going to hear evidence. We may see indictment soon. And that for me right now today, that's good. That's good. We'll go with that. All right. So we have a lot coming up this week. I'm watching the court. There's a lot of other stuff going on in this case behind the scenes, and we'll be bringing that to you as soon as anything is public. That's really exciting. Man, I know there's so much I want to say, and I'm like, can I say that? Can I say that? And tossed it through my brain. We'll just be quiet and we'll just say, yay, grand jury. Aussie Gardner, hi, I hope you're doing well. It's really good to see you. Let's get some hearts in the chat before we go for Kresha and Kay. It's Mother's Day tomorrow. Let's get all the flowers in chat. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms. And
absolutely.
Oh, this is great news. So let's be happy. I'm going to play Resident Evil today, Jess. How about you? You want to come play it with me?
No, because I like sleep when I can actually get it. I watched about 2 minutes of that with you and Rosie, and that was enough for me. I'm working on putting, if anybody that's been to my channel, if you've seen my Judge Judy, Letitia Stout smash up thing, I'm working on a Melanie Gibb and Dr. Phil one now. Just saying.
Yep.
It's in the works.
Also, if you want to leave, Zelda brought up a really great point. If you want to leave comments under the video once the replay is up, for Denise Rainey's family.
Yeah.
This is going to be their first Mother's Day without her. Why did I even start talking about that? Oh. I'm sorry. Yeah, let's leave some messages for Denise. Remember, she left us last June. This will be their first Mother's Day without her, and we know how much they loved and adored every cell in that woman's body. Denise was amazing. Yeah, so let's remember her today too. All right, so if we want to put messages, I will make sure that her husband and the family can see them, because that might make them feel good to know that people are thinking about Denise too.
Denise was a bulldog in this case. I know she had covered some cases, the making a murderer thing, but I mean, when she got a hold of this sucker, we all got messages. Have you seen this craziness out of it? I know. It was around Christmas time, I think, when I got, have you seen this? And she kept saying to me, have you interviews and articles and whatever, and I remember when you called and told me that she had died, I said, if I know anything about Denise, they're going to find those kids, because she's not going to let it go. And it was 3 days.
Yeah,
3 days they found those kids, and I said, and you best better believe she is torturing Lori in jail.
Oh, sorry, I should mute my mic for that.
Yeah, she's
yeah. We have. There's a lot of tears involved in this case, certainly for the family, for our loss of Denise and everything else. But at the same time, we got to take joy where we can find it, and joy knowing that justice is marching forward. Let that be our strength this weekend. And yeah, tell your mom you love them, because their moms are pretty cool. All right, so I'm going to get off here because I'm going to start bawling like a baby any second, and that is not pretty. So I'm going to go do my ugly crying off camera.
Yeah. Go play your zombie game. I'm going to go make fun of Melanie Gibb and Dr. Phil.
Always a good time. And Kresha, Kay, if you're still listening, I love you guys. My heart is with you whenever you need. I'm a phone call away. So we got this. Let's have a wonderful Mother's Day and justice. Woohoo. Let's go.
Yeah.
Bring it. Bring it.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go, and I'll talk to you all soon. Stay tuned to the channel. Please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. I do expect some bombshell kind of stuff coming out of the case in the next week or two, and you'll want to be notified as soon as it happens.
Yeah.
So hit that notification bell, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye, Jess. You have a great day.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.